Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. We got some big news from the One Piece TCG. Some things that, a lot of people have been speculating on and kind of predicting would happen for a while, right? We got a ban list that will be announced. Day 2 of the Bandai Card Fest finals. This is March 16th. So if you have any upcoming events or anything, obviously this is not the ban on this day, I believe, but the announcement of what will be, right? So already a lot of people speculating on what will get hit from this. Obviously nothing confirmed. However, we can obviously speculate off of what is kind of being seen in the meta, very oppressive and having a lot of showings, right? Certain cards that people have wanted banned for a while, and certain leaders even. Obviously, you can leave in the comments what you think should be banned or what will be banned, but let's get into a few possibilities that I think might happen, and also some stuff that I think may not happen that people do want to get banned, and some reasoning behind it, I guess. I don't know. Nothing to take too seriously, right? This is all speculation at the end of the day, and a lot of it's just opinion based of what people don't like playing against. Obviously, it's up to the people designing the card game to kind of keep in mind like gameplay mechanics and future card design for what they're banning right now, right? So let's get into it. Before we do though, leave a like, subscribe, and check out the links in the description if you want to support me in any way. I've my TCG player affiliate link. If you guys want to pick up any singles, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. Help support me. Also, you can visit Nen Garden. Use coupon code StrawHatPecan for 5% off any of their dope playmats. I've got the Shanks one, as you know. Very nice quality stuff. But yeah, so definitely down the line, couple months, let's talk about a few cards. Hey everyone, Editing Pecan here. I realized that I didn't include any green cards for this possible ban list to consider because it's under my opinion that green is just not that strong of a color right now, but if something did get hit, I think it would be something along the lines of these 3 cards, possibly, because of the combo that they all pose together. When all 3 of them on the board, it is a very tricky thing to remove the A-cost kid and can, be very frustrating for players. I get that, but that kind of goes into just, personal preference of things we don't like playing against. I don't think that the A-cost kid is like, or decks that run it are anything in terms of like the strongest decks, but for things we'll go over later in the video, for future gameplay design of cards, maybe something along these 3 does get hit because of a future card that comes out. Maybe, I don't know. I would say though that if anything did get hit in green, it would probably be one of these 3 because of how tricky it could be to remove. But again, at the end of the day, I don't think any of these do need to get removed. I don't think green is that strong. I would be very surprised if any of these did get hit. Obviously, in terms of leaders, right, people definitely have wanted Enel banned for a while. He is a leader that always is kind of around, and especially with some of the new EBO2 support, I'm hesitant to say that they would ban this card given the new EBO2 support that they just released that was pretty much leader-like to this and Calgara, right? But again, coming from just personal bias with some of these cards, but also some ideas behind it, right? These are just cards that not only I think may get hit, but I've just seen people throw around a lot with some of the discussion about these bans, right? Also, Rayleigh, just as I think he's the strongest red card, I don't think he'll get hit, but I didn't want red to feel left out entirely, so I put him up there as maybe a possibility. I don't think he'll get hit like at all. I think he's a pretty fair and balanced card, and I like Rayleigh, so I don't think it'll get hit. But if there was anything at all from red, I was just trying to think of all kind of colors and schemes. So if anything did get hit from red, I think it might be Rayleigh, but I don't think so, just because I was looking at Eggman Events site. Shout out to Eggman, great content creator and great person in the One Piece community for all the resources he brings. But looking at the event breakdown, I mean, just look at the pie charts for OP09, right? There is a lot of Shanks. Obviously, Shanks utilizes Rayleigh, but that's the only reason that I even put it up there for people to consider. But I don't think Rayleigh will get hit at all. But to note, obviously, everyone's thinking about Blue Doflamingo, how much it has been just in the meta since 8.5, those starter decks coming out that released the support for him. He has been like best deck in format for a while. But I think with something to consider with these bans to be announced is the possibility of new decks opening up and what will become best deck in format afterwards and what that will affect the game as a whole. Obviously, these bans might come into effect around OP 11, which I think OP 11 is a very big power creep set. A lot of great, strong leaders are coming out with that set. A lot of great support that I don't think will affect some of these decks so much. So I think some of those new leaders probably will come into the fray, especially with some bans being hit. But just saying that to say that maybe we won't have to worry about, this pie chart just shifting to another leader by the time these bans hit anyway. But as you can see, obviously a lot of Blue Doflamingo from OP09. And currently in OP10, there's a lot of just Blackbeard and Blue Doflamingo, with some other leaders coming into the fray. Obviously, Usopp, very strong. But getting back to the cards, I just want to mention some of these because I've seen a lot of people have been saying it. Obviously, Enel. I feel like this comes down to a lot of people's just opinion on playing it, right? Not even maybe as a gameplay design standpoint of a leader, but getting out of the way, I personally do not like Enel. I don't like playing against it. I don't think it's fun. I don't think the gameplay strategy for Enel being a starve deck that is very hard to finish off. Obviously, with him being in the game for so long, since OP05, you kind of learn how to play against him, and obviously some leaders do it better than others. There really hasn't been a time where Enel was super, like the best deck in format, oppressively so, right? Whereas even when he won the North America finals, right, with Jonas, right? Even then, Sakazuki was still there and a very high contender, Do I think they're going to ban Enel? I don't think so, but I could see it, right? Again, it just comes down to a personal preference of like decks that I think I and a lot of people don't like playing against when we see these ban lists come about, that he gets thrown in the mix. I don't think he will be. I honestly do not think he will be at all, because from the few, EVO2 is very recent. However, already we're seeing a lot of the new green-purple Luffy in a lot of these flagships and tournaments that are EVO2, right? Even though, I even probably said this too, with the new 10 drop for Enel, I thought it was going to be top dog. I thought it was going to be top of the charts. But I think Green Purple Luffy has a really good showing into Enel, being is that he can just go super wide, super aggressive, super quick, and Enel just can't really keep up. So I don't think Enel is going to get hit, but I've seen a lot of people throwing this around. Again, we have to think about gameplay design when they're considering these ban lists, right? A lot of thought goes into, yes, what is in the meta, what is oppressive right now, but also for future gameplay design of new cards, how are they going to fit into these old leaders? How will that affect things, right? Obviously, with like stuff like Jinbei and the starter deck law, these are newer cards that made an OP01 leader, Blue Doflamingo, super broken, right? So if they did ban Enel, it would probably be because they have something down the line that would make this a problem. So maybe they want to get it out of the way now. Again, we could probably just take Rayleigh off the list. I just want to put it up as a red card. I don't think there's any really super strong red cards that would be broken in new leaders, or even right now is super oppressive. But talking about Blue Doflamingo nerfs, because I think, right, we have to consider that. I don't think the leader itself is going to get banned. I don't think Blue Doflamingo needs to be banned necessarily. I think it's just some of the support, right? Honestly, Jinbei being a very strong key component of the deck, really making it so Blue Doflamingo is as strong as he is, right? Just flooding the board. Like if you're on 10 Don with Teach, you get like 5 bodies out, right? With like leader ability, getting you, 2 rested Don, leaving 1 up for leader ability, 4 Don for Jinbei, 4 Don for another Jinbei. Like you can easily flood the board late game with Jinbei. It is a key component in that deck. I think if we nerf this at all, Blue Doflamingo would be absolutely fine. Likewise with the Bounce Law, I think this card is super strong, underrated when it first came out. I don't even think it's underrated, right? But I don't think people really grasped how strong it was and how impressive it is. Just the continuous bounce. The fact that he can bounce himself as the first target and still target something else, right? Like for that first bolt text, you may return one of your characters to his owner's hand. You can choose Law, like the Law that you just played out, meaning that your opponent doesn't have any ability to interact with this card except for hand destruction cards or like pudding, right? If they play out the 8-cost Isho and just rip it out of your hand by random chance, or like the 4-cost blocker Law, which not a lot of people play anymore, or pudding, right? But other than that, there's no real way to interact with this card, in which why I think it might be one of the targets for Blue Doflamingo. It is super good for that deck, super oppressive in that fact that it's not really much interaction between opponents because it doesn't stick on the board, right? So I don't know. I don't know if we'll see limits for either of these, maybe to 1, or just complete ban outright. Gekko Moria. This card has like since set 7. I remember back when I was at Gen Con, my first regional in person, there was like people, I think, with shirts just saying like ban A-Drop Gekko Moria. And this was back in set 7. This card has been a problem for a while. There's just so much value with this card. If you're a newer player looking at the ban list possibilities, right, and thinking about why each individual card, this card is just unlike any other in the way that it kind of makes certain decks work, right? Like, as we saw from the list, there was a lot of Black Yellow Luffy in a lot of those lists. If you've been to locals or any tournaments, right, you've probably seen the Luffy. We'll see if I can find them. The Black Yellow Luffy leader being one that is really crucial for Gekko Moria to be in the game, right? If Gekko Moria is not in the game, this deck doesn't function as it currently stands, right? I don't think it is a top deck if it doesn't have Gekko Moria to recycle the kids to get the leader ability online consistently over and over again, right? There's a gameplay loop for this deck at 10 Don where you put 2 Don on leader for your leader ability, and then you get the kid versions of cards back with Gekko Moria, and then play out the adult versions, buffing up the leader and establishing bodies. This card is super good for that. Super good for that. It makes decks, like any black deck, pretty much runs this card as a 4-up. Why I think they might even just get rid of it, I mean, we see Usopp doesn't run this. We've got the Rebecca, the new Rebecca card, that is essentially a different Gekko Moria, but a little bit more fair in my opinion, because it's essentially not leader locked to Usopp, but it's specifically designed for that deck in mind, right? Gekko Moria itself has been a problem. You just get so much value from one card. And I mean, the Rebecca blocker came up here, right? Recycling this Rebecca blocker from the Gekko Moria gets you a ton of value, right? The 8-drop that on play 1 cost 4 or less character and up to 1 cost 2 or less character from your trash. Play one of them as active, then one is rested. And then on turn, you play out that 4 cost as Rebecca. You get a blocker. On top of that, you get Rebecca's effect, which returns 1 black character other than Rebecca with a cost of 3 to 7 from your trash to your hand, and then play 1 cost 3 or less black character from your hand to the field rested. That is a lot of value from 1 card on top of just establishing an 8 and 9. A lot of people have wanted this card banned for a while. You know, a lot of people have talked about limiting, or maybe it was the Rebecca that needed to be hit. I don't know. I think if we ban this card, Black Yellow Luffy obviously drops in popularity. It's a deck that kind of needs that. I mean, like I said, pretty much every black deck besides Blackbeard, because you can't use the on play in Blackbeard, needs this card. So that's something to consider. Like if this card goes, so does Black Yellow Luffy, unless we get some kind of replacement in terms of like a newer card that kind of can do a similar thing. I don't know. Gum Gum Giant. This event is arguably one of the best counter events in the game. I would say it is for a purple event, but it is pretty much archetype locked. However, like I mentioned before, the green purple Luffy is super good. That new leader is super good. We've got a lot of purple Luffy leaders, purple Straw Hat. This event is really, really good. For 1 Don, you Don -2, trash 1 card from your hand. If your leader has the Straw Hat crew type, you gain plus 4,000 to a character or leader, and then draw 2 cards so it replaces itself in the card that you drew. I don't know if this will get hit, but it is a really good event, and I have seen people mention it when talking about ban lists. It is super strong. I don't know, and maybe it is still too early to talk about EBO2 and how much this card gets used in the new green-purple Luffy leader, because that is a very mid-range aggro deck that plays a lot of 7 or 5 to 7 cost characters that do a lot of Don minusing. So on top of all of that, adding this card in, you could go down too far down in Don, who knows, but it is a really good event. It is really strong. You get a lot of value from it. On top of that, we have the blue-purple Luffy coming out in set 11. So who knows if they think that this would be too strong in that. Again, I personally don't think that this needs to get banned, but it would be interesting to see, because I think this will be a 4 of in like, I don't know, in like pretty much every purple Straw Hat crew leader deck, because it is very good value. It is very good value. Whenever you're going against purple Luffy, or again, any purple Straw Hat crew like black purple Luffy, Robin, and they leave 1 Don open, you got to kind of count for that card. And it makes it, trickier to go for a game, I'd say. But again, I don't think it'll get banned, but it is very strong. And again, I was trying to look at multiple colors and multiple points of views, and just seeing a lot of what people are talking about in the community for bans, right? Because again, we don't need to just think about what is going on in the meta for these bans. Obviously, that is very important. And seeing Blue Doflamingo at the top for so long, I think it's reasonable to suspect that something from Blue Dofi will get hit. I don't think it'll be the leader. Could be, but again, I think it might be one of these 2 support cards. But also, how these bans will affect future gameplay design mechanics, right? Some people have also brought up just banning the Nami leader. Again, Nami is a leader that has been around for a while. It's very popular because of its alternate win condition, making it a very consistent pick for a lot of players. I don't really want this card banned, as much as some people hate playing against it. You know, the memes of, oh, it's a very like solitaire deck, you're just very boring deck. But I mean, like, you got to know how to play against it. It's interesting in the way that it's an alternate win condition, but as a gameplay design standpoint, I do understand that like you can't add more blue cards to the game that have just a flat draw effect because of how it can affect Nami, right? You have to add conditions to that, like the new EBO2 Vivi card, right? This had to have if your leader is multicolored, right? Because if they print something like this but just for blue, obviously Nami will use that and use it very well. So it's just something to keep in mind. Like, a lot of these bans, when you're thinking about it, yes, there are things that are just very prevalent in the meta right now that are just really maybe overtuned decks or just very strong that probably might get hit, but you have to think about stuff from a future gameplay design standpoint as well, like what cards are going to be coming out, what do they maybe want to print later on that they haven't even announced yet that they're thinking about, you know. So whatever we see from the bans, maybe it might not make sense now, but maybe it'll make sense down the line, who knows. I think, again, I don't think Enel will get hit. Obviously, Rayleigh probably won't, but I just want to put a red card up there. One of these two, I think, will get hit for Blue Doflamingo. I think if we see either of these just get outright banned, Blue Doflamingo loses a lot of its power. It would still be a very strong deck, but it would play a lot differently, and it'd be a lot less prevalent, right? 8-drop Gekko Moria obviously has been a card a lot of people have wanted gone for a while. I think with some of the new leaders, though, we don't even see this card being used, right? So does it need to go anymore? I don't know. That's something up for debate. Like, is it getting power crept out? Or maybe just some of the new leaders just don't use this, right? Usopp doesn't use this. He's a very strong deck. He's not top of the meta, I don't think. I mean, he did win, Japan's finals or something, right? Or in Asian finals, I think. He won a very big tournament. Usopp is a very strong deck. I'm not saying he isn't, but overall, there's just a lot of leaders upcoming that won't even use this, right? The new set 11 leaks, I don't think Kobe's going to be using this, right? So do they even need to hit it? Who knows? Again, OP11 is going to be a very big power creep set, I think, with a lot of very strong cards, or very strong leaders. So I don't even know if Gekko Moria is going to even need to be hit. As crazy it is to say, because he has been so crazy for so long, but I could be wrong. I would like to even see it be gone just to inspire more of those new leaders, right? I'm not saying that it shouldn't be banned. I'm just saying consider it that maybe we've just gone so long that it's not needed to be banned anymore. But if we do hit Blue Doflamingo, what decks come back into the meta that would use this, right? That's also a thought that has to be considered when talking about bans, right? When you hit the top deck, Blue Doflamingo, what else is being gate kept out of the meta, right? When we hit Red Purple Law, when we hit Sakazuki, when you hit Whitebeard, what things popped up that then became oppressive in the format, became too much to handle, right? Obviously, when Red Purple Law got hit, there was then a lot of Rob Lucci, a lot of Black Purple Luffy, you know, and that was pretty much the two staple decks for a lot of like set 8 into 8.5, and then Blue Doflamingo pops up. I don't know. I'm interested to see what does get hit. Again, I'll just take Rayleigh out of there. I don't think Enel gets hit, but I think that is the #1 leader that people like want to, from their own personal like passion of like hate for this leader. And again, I don't like him either. I don't like this leader. I don't like playing against it. I don't know if he'll need to get banned, because it's a thing of like he's always around, but he's never like around too much. He kind of just skates by under the radar slightly. With that new 10 drop, yeah, he is a problem, especially for a lot of decks. But we've seen a lot of decks beat him, and those decks end up being a little bit stronger in general too, right? I don't think that Blue Doflamingo is going to get banned. Again, could be wrong, but my final thoughts are, I think one of these two cards gets banned. I think Gekko Moria probably gets banned, even though who knows if it needs it anymore. I don't know if Gum Gum Giant gets limited to 1 or just outright banned. People have talked about it. Nami leader, I don't think it's banned, but I could be wrong. I don't think it does, because it hasn't been in the meta recently and like for a while. Before we wrap up though, Blackbeard. I know it's another leader that a lot of people have talked about being one to get hit. I think it's too early in his life cycle. But I agree though, what we talked about, how when you hit one meta deck right at the top, what else pops up? I think if we get rid of Blue Doflamingo, this is what we're going to see. I think there's going to be a lot of Blackbeard. He gets really good support in OP10 with the new 6-cost event and the Kuzan. These cards are super strong, really good pieces for his puzzle, right? Blackbeard is a very intricate deck, right? And these just add a little bit more layers to him and a little bit more tools to help him work. Especially if it's something that happens like immediately for this ban, like simultaneous ban, which I think it is. I could be wrong, but I don't know if I saw that detail, but I think it is. If this gets hit, so where it's gonna be ROP10, where we have like a nerfed blue Doflamingo and Blackbeard is at just full power, I think this is gonna be the deck that we see over here in the West. So a lot of people have brought up, do we ban this leader? I don't know. I do like that he works a little bit differently, right? But as a gameplay design, I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. I do get worried, though, if we see Blue Doflamingo get hit, what happens to our meta over here in OP10? I think it's going to be a lot of Blackbeard. And then I don't know what aggro deck could really kind of take this guy down. I don't know. I do not know. But that's kind of all the thoughts that I have for this topic, right? It's just stuff to consider if you're like newer to the game. When looking at a ban list, right? They often announce these announcements of these lists, right? And they typically do it at these big events like the Card Fest, the Worlds, things like that. So that way it kind of happens after the events. Because when you have all these players preparing for these huge events, you kind of don't want to throw them a curveball right beforehand with a ban list. So that's why they kind of announce it afterwards. Things to consider, because there's all a lot of speculation, but a lot of reasoning behind it. As we looked at the pie charts for OP09 events, so much Blue Doflamingo. What are the key pieces of that deck? If you don't hit the leader directly, what do they need to hit? Again, I think these are the two strongest pieces of his puzzle. But again, if we hit all this stuff, what happens with this? I think that's the question that kind of leans into the thinking of maybe Blackbeard gets hit. I don't even know what piece they would take out from him. Obviously, you probably can't hit the 10 drop, you know? Do we just take back one of the new pieces? Because I think OP09 Blackbeard is just not the powerhouse that OP10 is. OP10, right? With these new pieces. I don't know. There's just a lot of yapping because we're all just speculating on this, obviously. But it's fun too. You know, it's fun too. And I could be wrong. And you could be sitting there thinking, wow, Pecan, you're so stupid and wrong. Because I'm watching this after the ban list was announced and none of your predictions were right. You know, Blue Doflamingo's gone. Every leader got banned except for Iceberg, actually. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I think our glorious king does not get hit. I don't think VV gets hit either. Although, you know, back in the day, those red bans, it really affected the deck list for VV that I had. I don't know. We're never truly safe out here. It's kind of crazy, but that's just something I wanted to yap about, speculate on. Again, I don't think he gets hit. I think these get hit, not the leader. This probably gets hit. This maybe gets hit. I don't think it needs to, but like if it does, I could be like, okay, yeah, I see it. I see it. But, you know, maybe I'm missing cards. Maybe I'm missing completely anything, but who knows? Let me know down in the comments what you think will get hit, what you want to get hit. Again, a lot of these speculations often come down to people's own personal opinions, and that's fine because we're just speculating. Nothing to take too seriously. Don't come at me with pitchforks, please. But either way, I think it's always a fun time when things do get a bit of a balance, because that's what the ban lists are supposed to be. A little bit of a tweak, a balance to the gameplay and card design to allow new stuff in. I think that OP11 is going to be a very, very fun set. A lot of the leaders will be used, and I think that's really cool and good for the game as a whole. I think when a new set comes out and the leaders are very much used from the local setting to top tournaments. I think that's good for the game, you know, that these new leaders are getting a lot of play. And hopefully with some of these bans and restrictions, we can also see some other decks that were out of the meta come back. You know, maybe we see Marco. I love Marco. He was pretty good for 8.5. Maybe stuff like that comes out. Who knows? Who knows? Again, it's all speculation. I'm done yapping. Hopefully you guys get any kind of idea. Maybe if you were newer at the game, maybe this is your first ban list, right? Just stuff to consider when you're thinking about this, hopefully. But yeah, let me know down in the comments anything you think I missed or should have talked about, anything you think should get hit. Leave a like on the video, subscribe, and I'll see you on our next one. Bye-bye.